Right now, we're pulling back the curtain on what is arguably the absolute ultimate symbol of global wealth. We are going to investigate the jaw-dropping, deeply hidden economic physics of private aviation. I mean, if you've ever looked up at the sky and wondered what it actually takes to keep one of those sleek machines in the air, or why some of the richest people in the entire world absolutely refuse to buy one, well, you are in the right place. We're going to decode the exact financial physics of operating a private jet for 60 minutes, and I promise you, the reality is completely different from what you might expect.
Okay, let's just dive right into this massive, mind-boggling number, $90 million. If you're in the market for an ultra-long-range aircraft, we're talking something like a Gulfstream G700 or a Dassault Falcon 10X, this is what you could easily drop just to acquire the thing. But here's the secret the industry definitely doesn't broadcast. This is what we call the purchase price illusion. That astronomical $90 million figure, it's literally just the tip of the iceberg. It is quite simply your entry ticket to the game.
So, what does it actually cost to own this ultimate symbol of wealth? And why does this distinction matter so much? Well, think about it. Most buyers at this incredible level of wealth are coming from the world of high-end real estate. Spending $90 million on a trophy asset? That feels totally comprehensible to them. They negotiate, they sign the papers, and they naturally think they're playing by real estate rules. But the absolute second they take those keys, they enter the ruthless math of aviation rules. And trust me, aviation rules do not care about your net worth.
Let's peel back our first layer of reality by introducing the absolute fundamental rule of the private aviation economy. It's called the fixed floor trap. This is the unseen underbelly of jet ownership. The foundational principle you have to understand here is that aviation costs compound relentlessly, 24/7, regardless of whether you actually fly the plane or it just sits quietly on the tarmac. Before you even calculate the physics of operating a private jet for 60 minutes in the air, you have to pay a massive premium, just for the privilege of its mere existence on the ground.
And the crucial reality here is just staggering. An average mid-sized jet burns through about $1.3 million every single year just to legally exist. Let's look at these line items. Parking at major metropolitan airports like Teterboro in New York or Van Nuys in LA, that can run you $300,000 a year all by itself. Then you need 2 type-rated pilots. These are your full-time employees making somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 combined. And guess what? They don't stop being your employees just because the plane is taking a nap in the hangar. Add another $150,000 to $500,000 for calendar-based routine maintenance, and your wallet is completely exhausted before the engines even turn on.
Now, consider the sheer gravity of this number. When you take all those fixed costs we just talked about and break them down, a private jet costs $3,000 an hour just sitting completely motionless on the tarmac. Let that sink in for a second. $3,000 an hour to do absolutely nothing. It's a depreciating asset that charges you a massive premium just to sit still.
And it just keeps building. Let's fast forward to the year 5 milestone to see how this plays out. Everything might hum along perfectly fine for a few years, but right around year 5, you run headfirst into the dreaded C-check. This is a mandatory, incredibly comprehensive teardown of the entire aircraft. For a mid-sized jet, this single inspection costs up to $1.2 million. Your jet is completely grounded for 3 to 8 weeks. And yes, in case you were wondering, you are absolutely still paying those massive pilot salaries and hangar fees while your multi-million-dollar asset is essentially sitting there in 1,000 pieces.
Now we arrive at a truly fascinating part of the industry, the captive market ecosystem. You might assume aviation is an open, competitive market like normal automobiles, right? It is absolutely not. If your car needs a part, you have total freedom to shop around for aftermarket parts, which naturally creates robust price competition. In a private jet, no way. Every single component must have a documented, perfectly traceable history for regulators. While this strict framework is obviously crucial for safety, it very conveniently destroys all price competition, locking owners into a massive $18 billion captive maintenance monopoly.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the engine ecosystem capitalizes on that exact captive market. Because you have no alternatives, manufacturers have successfully engineered an inescapable, highly lucrative lifetime subscription called Power by the Hour. Business jets are powered by engines from only 3 major manufacturers. You pay a fee, typically $200 to $800 per flight hour per engine, for the entire lifetime of that engine. It's a perpetual subscription revenue stream that runs for literally as long as the aircraft flies. Okay, so you've got the plane, you've paid the subscriptions, now you actually have to put fuel in the plane. Notice the total stranglehold fixed base operators, or FBOs, have on the tarmac.
One single company, Signature Aviation, controls roughly 60% of these services at major North American airports. Because they have a captive audience, they extract a 30 to 80% markup over wholesale fuel prices. If you burn 800 gallons on a transatlantic flight, these captive FBOs are extracting thousands of extra dollars from you in a single trip, quite literally just for the privilege of using their hose.
So this brings us to the real climax of this explainer. The realization that private jet ownership isn't actually a money problem. It is a brutal, unforgiving math problem. All of these captive costs and fixed floors create a dynamic where your wealth simply doesn't protect you from terrible mathematics.
To prove this, let's look at Tiger Woods. The guy certainly doesn't lack money, right? Yet, around 2014, he sold his Gulfstream G700. Why would a billionaire give up his private jet? He didn't run out of money. The math simply broke. His utilization of the aircraft was incredibly low, and when you fly that infrequently, the true cost of each flight hour completely skyrockets, pushing his actual hourly cost to an agonizing $30,000 to $40,000.
Just look at this massive, glaring gap in utilization. The entire private aviation economy relies heavily on an industry model that requires 200 flight hours a year just to reach a break-even point on all those massive fixed costs. But the reality? Most private jet owners only fly between 50 and 80 hours a year. This gap is exactly where owners absolutely hemorrhage cash. They're paying a massive fixed floor for an asset they simply aren't using enough to justify.
And this perfectly puts it into perspective. Let's look at a real-world trip. A first-class commercial ticket from New York to London costs roughly $5,000 one way. If you own a mid-sized jet and you only fly 80 hours a year, your true hourly cost, when you factor in all those fixed expenses, balloons to over $20,000. You are paying 4 times the price of commercial first class to go to the exact same destination, entirely just to fund your own unused capacity.
So what about the alternatives? When owners realize the math is broken, they often turn to what the industry eagerly offers as alternatives. But let's systematically peel back the layers on the 2 most common false solutions out there: fractional ownership and charter management.
First up is the fractional jet trap. Companies will gladly sell you a 1/16th share of an aircraft, which represents about 50 hours of flying time. Sounds okay, right? But you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars up front, plus massive monthly management fees. On top of all that, you still pay an occupied hourly rate of $3,000 to $5,000 every single time you fly. You are spending $600,000 to $1 million annually for a measly 50 hours in the air. And the final equity at the end of your contract? Zero. It is not a cheaper asset. It's a highly lucrative subscription priced at an ownership premium where you end up with absolutely nothing.
Okay, what about charter management? This is where you let an operator rent out your jet when you aren't using it. Well, the catch here is brutal. The operator takes up to 20% of the gross revenue right off the top. Meanwhile, total strangers are constantly flying your aircraft, which accelerates those massive heavy maintenance visits by 15 to 25%. You are turning your depreciating asset into a commercial product that generates pure cash for the management company while you sit there and absorb all the wear and tear from strangers.
So we've officially ruled out whole ownership for low utilizers, fractional shares, and charter management, which reveals the single mathematical solution that actually makes sense for the vast majority of people flying fewer than 200 hours a year: on-demand charter. You buy the access, not the airplane. When you utilize on-demand charter, you simply book the specific flight you need, pay the $3,000 to $10,000 per hour, and walk away clean. The financial benefits are absolute. 0 hangar leases, 0 pilot payrolls, 0 C-check liabilities, 0 FPO fuel markups. You get the exact same luxury cabin experience, but you completely avoid carrying the staggering financial liabilities of a massive machine. So, to bring it all together, we really need to completely shift how we perceive this ultimate symbol of wealth. People buy private jets because they genuinely think they are buying total independence. They think they're buying freedom. But you aren't purchasing freedom, you are purchasing an obligation. You are simply taking a seat at the very center of an ecosystem that has been masterfully architected over decades to extract maximum revenue from you.
And that leads us to this absolute mic drop realization. You don't own a jet, you fund a service industry. The jet is merely the physical mechanism by which mechanics, manufacturers, and FBO monopolies extract maximum recurring revenue from whoever happens to hold the title to the plane. The manufacturers know it, the service providers definitely know it, and the only person who usually doesn't realize it is the person whose name is actually on the registration.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating paradox to consider.
In a world where owning the ultimate asset just makes you the prime target of a captive service industry, a relentless financial ecosystem designed specifically to drain your capital, is the ultimate luxury actually not owning anything at all? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the math behind the magic.